pleasure for me as a longtime fan to be sitting here with Aaron Gray.
Here with Larry Hama.
We're talking with Kevin J. Anderson, best-selling author.
Mr. Neil Adams.
I am here with David Prince.
Axel Alonso, editor.
Shadow Stevens. And Devil's Comic-Con with John Delancey.
With Tom King.
Kevin Conroy.
Free Comic Book Day.
Denise Crosby.
PopCon Pop Expo.
Here on location at Star Wars Celebration.
Sci-Fi Expo, talking for our second time with Gil Gerard.
Wichita, Kansas at Time Eddie.
Producer David Gerald.
I've got Eric Flint.
Are here at Smallville Comic-Con.
Wizard World St. Louis.
VillageCon in Bentonville, Arkansas.
Michael Lombardi.
We were talking with Alan Dean.
Quincy Allen.
Suzanne Lambden.
Of Starlog Magazine, Mr. Kerry Oakwood.
Chris Sami.
Len Weed. Mano Interrami. Jason Aaron.
This is Sci-Fi for Me, your portal to the science fiction multiverse.
The Immortal Mask, a 1970s superhero crime noir adventure that follows a retired soldier who is given a covenant interview with a death row inmate. What he learns from the interview thrusts him into Atlanta's shadowy underworld. He'll have to utilize his military training to survive from being hunted for the information that could topple the most powerful ruling class in the city. This is not a pre-order or a crowdfunding campaign. Get your books now at denali's.com.
Seconds to curtain, folks.
Your favorite podcast is Critical Blast.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show Chris and Diana Tamulevich.
Hello!
This is the first time that I've introduced you guys correctly. You let me go a year and more with Tamulevich.
Well, I come to all sorts of, I come to a lot of enunciations on that. It's really quite universal and flexible.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it wasn't until I heard you introduce yourself on something like, what did he say?
A lot of people
Sounds like-
say Tamulevich. A lot of them. A lot of people. So
I don't know why. It's the syncopation that
Yes,
we're
exactly.
used to. I was like, wait a second, he put the accent on the wrong syllable there. That's
well, I kind of like that because a lot of the great artists are like that. Like I always, I can't say his name, Bill Sienkiewicz. Thank you. I always mess his name up. But there's like, if you got a weird name to say, it's kind of cool because then when you hear people say it, it's like, yeah, I like that. That was unique.
Yes. I forget who it was, but there was like a Marvel artist it was not Bill, and he had an odd spelling. And somebody said, how do you pronounce your last name? And he said Sienkiewicz, because everyone's always asking Bill Sienkiewicz how to pronounce it. Because that's that Sienkiewicz guy.
Yeah.
I went here saying Sienkiewicz.
I used to call John Byrne John Byron. I don't know why I thought Byron was the way to pronounce that, but I did.
Right, Byron's. I can see that.
Yeah, but it's Byrne, and I should have known that. But for years, when I was a kid, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's John Byron." Where's the rank from? I don't know, but I put it in there.
It was hard. Yeah, it's funny when you finally hear somebody say something, and it's like different than you've been saying it for years. Yeah.
I had to learn how to spell it in order to date him. That was like one of the prerequisites. It's like, yeah, you need to learn to spell my name. We can't do this thing.
Oh yeah.
But
there's no point in talking about the future if you can't spell the name.
One of the funniest things that I find is like if I go somewhere and they'll say, "What's your name?" I'll say Diana Tamulevich. Oh, hi, Tammy. No, not Tammy Levich. My first name, they totally miss Diana and say Tammy Levich. It's not for all the time. It's all the time. And I'm like, I try to enunciate the Diana louder because when you say Diana Tamulevich and people are only half listening, as you know, the world is so busy and crazy. Not everybody's tuned into what you're saying. And if you're picking something up, they're like, oh, okay, Tammy. No. So I always got a chuckle out of that. Like,
I knew a guy named Billy Jean. Jean was his last name, but everybody just called him his full name all the time.
Billy Jean.
Rolled off the tongue that way. And it wasn't until last year when I had him on the show that I knew that it was Carl Kiesel, who has been doing books for DC and Marvel all these years. I was calling him Carl Kessel.
I would have too. Yeah,
because that's what Han Solo did. He ran the Kessel run.
Exactly.
Oh. So you're complicating the whole pronunciation thing by going into manga and giving us a title that is even harder to say. I swear I wanted to like record my opening statement here as audio and then say it without my mouth matching the words because it would have been like a Japanese monster movie then.
That would have been perfect.
Yeah. Well, it occurred to me that over the last 6 months, no one can see my mouth move anymore.
Yes, I was going to comment on the fullness of the beard coming along there, sir.
Fullness. And by the way, I'm going to make the same offer tonight that I have made for the past several weeks, and no one has ever made it happen. Get this book funded tonight. The scissors are right there. I'll do it live. I'll do it right on the stream.
Oh, wow.
So, all that's got to happen. Book's got to get funded, get over that goal, and it's just a grab and a snap.
The goal is like a whole funny story too, because
what happened? Serious. That goal was a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got neurotypical. My Asperger's mind came up with the idea, and then Diana, along with two neurotypical intelligent people, convinced me that it would be a bad idea. For a multitude of reasons, but I was very disappointed in it. I was like, so yeah, I had to change the total because they all thought it would backfire on me.
We thought it was in the best interest of, reputation. We didn't want to cause any ill feelings whatsoever. And when these other two, again, very intelligent, very well-versed comic book people said to us, this is how we could see it being taken, that was enough for Chris and I to say, you know what? It's supposed to be a gag. It's supposed to be like, yeah, right, Hero Shack, you're crazy. And we were hoping to drive people to be more curious about the book. Like, what do you mean 1.3 million and $1? Ugh. But then when we heard their side of it, I hadn't even thought of that. I just thought my husband was crazy.
Well, the thing that pushed me back was they said it could be seen as some sort of grudge campaign against DBS. And I said,
that's not the attitude.
And I was like, well, that's not
one
what I
show
want.
would cover that.
Right.
Yeah,
that's true.
yeah.
It's true.
Well, and it's like, so I backed off, but like the thing is, and you'll see more of this in the coming years, as I want the company to grow, I'm going to start really expressing myself. And I almost got the 1.3 plus $1, but I keep getting neurotypical down. Like the neurotypicals around me start going, "You're crazy. You shouldn't do that."
Not to belittle you guys or anything, but for it to be taken like a grudge match against Ethan, you'd have to be like Alex Ross coming and says, "I'm going to do it for 1.3 million and $1." But Hero Shack coming in, it's an obvious David and Goliath thing,
right?
It's a joke, and like, but so for the sake of my wife's honor,
Ethan too, because I mean, that is like, I think maybe I'm speaking for us, but for us to be able to get to that level, oh my goodness, right? That's such a miracle goal. It would be
if you hit anybody who hits that level is pretty much, they've got a career in comics. That's where they are cemented,
And it's fun to aspire to that, but we were always very grounded, knowing that we would never make it. Like Chris and I knew we weren't going to make it, but again, I got people talking. Hey, listen, I said, that's fine. I said, that's what you want to do. We did a whole like sort of interview on our anniversary. Yes. Okay. I think you're crazy, but I do. And if this is your company, you're the star here of the show. I'm just a little man in the back. Go for it.
I saw that video. I loved it. I said, yes, this should be your promo video.
Then
it was for about a week before launch, and then the pull came. I could just restart the campaign, but boy, that would just tick off my 3 backers.
No, don't do that. It's underway. It's going.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Slowly but surely.
Yes. Well, we haven't done any promotion. You're actually our first show for this. Hello, Big Q.
You're still not doing any promotion. I hate to tell you that, but
yeah. Well, we actually love your show. We've missed you. So when Diana said there was a shot to get on and talk with you, I was like, heck yeah.
Yeah. I just want to catch up and stuff.
Yeah, I haven't seen you guys forever, and and nothing happened. It's just you started doing the books, and I started like getting tired of doing streams.
Literally, I disappeared in MANGAI. Like my initial intent was to release this like in October, and I could have done issue 1 then, but it's been a very slow process of just going back and hammering through it again, saying, okay, I need to adjust this, I need to tweak that, and when this goes out. Yeah, it still won't be good enough. I still want to do stuff, but it's going to be a well-seasoned book. It's going to really have some time that it got to sit and get molded a little bit more than any of my previous works.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I do want to say is that in the past, Chris has been notorious for like cranking out these books, just doing it. Like he just had to get these stories written, had to get them drawn. I think now that we're on our 4th year, he's recognized too that, slowing down is not a bad thing. I mean, it's okay to take a breath and like really go back to that first book and reread it and look at it and redraw it, because it's never good enough for him.
That's the neurotypical mindset. Everything is still done quickly, but when I go back and I look, I say, oh, I should quickly redo that panel, or I should quickly redo this page. And like, just so it's all the same pace.
Perfect is the enemy of done.
Yeah.
Okay? Yes. Just keep that in mind. Vic Do in the chat. Yes, you can toss links in here because you have a wrench through other means. I know you're not on the network you think you are. We have pirated things. So you're seeing us on other channels tonight. Mike Walters in the chat to share and like. Always appreciate that.
Hey, brother.
And he, like me, was pronouncing it wrong forever. Mike, the thing you're not pronouncing wrong is manga, because we're not saying manga or manga. We're saying MANGAI tonight.
Right. So the name really comes from a desire to get a name like He-Man, and literally MANGAI is but Guy is spelled like Guy King. It's a Japanese spelling. And really the whole idea of spawned from Mangai, you sure can. And you see the Yoshokan, that kind of worked into, there's something called Yoshokan with an E. So like it all evolved from this like one little play with the words. And the story really is, I don't want to use the word love letter because it's not a love letter to the 80s, 90s and anime. It's really like how I viewed all the Western stuff that came to us from the East, like everything that was localized and veiled in their like censorship and their rewrites and everything. That all plays into this. And ultimately it won't eclipse, it won't climax in issue 4, but the overarching story will be their misunderstandings and the reality of what Mangai really is in Japan. Which of course we play like a wrestling angle and say, yes, it's real in Japan. As you can see, there's Japanese on the titles. And yeah, it's in our world, Mangai is an anime and a manga and quite successful overseas. And these kids only have a Western grasp of it. So what ends up happening is they end up gaining the ability to basically mimic the powers as they understand them. And that is where you'll get like your Super Sentai type action from. If you're not familiar with that term, I mean like Power Rangers or, you know, any of the old classics, Force 5, Battle of the Planets, anywhere where you had teams in colors, Voltron, Beetleborgs.
They all had 5 ships. They all formed one ship.
Yep. Now their ships don't appear in this one. This series here, they're only going to get so far as their cool self armor, but that's because the intent is to grow this series. It's coming out as 4 issues, which I think I may have told you in messages. Actually, was inspired by Immortal Mask, which I saw you ran a video for, or they were in one of the videos. And I've told a lot of people this, but when I got their shipment, having 3 separate issues was so much cooler than having one graphic novel. It just felt more comic booky versus like getting a big thick book and I hope I don't break the spine. You know, it's just something about it.
You feel like there's a natural stopping point. You can put it down, go get something to eat. You know, come wake up tomorrow morning. I haven't read the 2nd issue yet, and just pick right up. As opposed to needing a bookmark.
I think it seems more manageable in today's crazy world too. Like you get these big books, like these big novels. I'm like, I got to start that. And yes, you can stop at certain chapters and all that, but it just, for me, it always seems very overwhelming.
Well, and when the target audience is like, you know, young teenagers and stuff, there is something to like getting more, like in their heads, having 4 issues is somehow cooler than having 1 issue. Like it's the illusion of quantity, you know, even though it would be the same as if like with Trolls Exposed, where I just put them all in one book. I could do that with this and have a 120-page book, which we will do with the hardcover. But when they get these separate issues, it's like, I love it. It just gives them that feel of a comic book. And I hope it translates. I don't know if it will, but I really hope it does.
Yeah, I talked with Howard Warshaw, Jason Hunt from Sci-Fi For Me, and I had him on a joint show. He's the guy who programmed the ET cartridge for Atari, by the way. And now he's a clinical psychologist. And he talked about how, you know, if you have this generation will sit down in front of Netflix and they'll say, that's a 2.5-hour movie. I don't have that kind of commitment. And then they'll sit down and they'll binge 6 hours of half-hour episodes.
Exactly. Doesn't make sense, but
but because you know, they're taking smaller bites and still eating the same elephant,
right? I don't know what Chris is doing. Chris, are you rearranging this?
Yeah, he's moving out.
I gotta check something. No, I think at one point I ran a fake ad for that guy for Sci-Fi.
That's a big book.
That is a big.
This is the 2019 Hero Shack book, and it's all the issues I did in 2019 in one collection, so I don't have to stock every single one of them when we go to shows. But I'm just checking real quick to see if I can find his ad because I don't know which one I put it in.
Handy dandy way of carrying things around.
Yeah, right.
So I'm looking at the picture here for the MANGAI YOSHOKAN.
Yes, sir.
And you're familiar with comic book color theory, where, red, yellow, blue, those are good guys. Green, purple, orange, those are bad guys. And you do a lot of the secondary colors.
Yeah.
With cluster fudge.
Colors.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, you got primary colors on Cyclopean, but he's still brown, and there's still a lot of the secondary colors around him.
Wait till you see his sweatshirt. He's coming up in a regular civilian clothing outfit soon. And
oh boy.
But yeah, I'm sorry. Go on.
They're green and brown and kind of an indigo thing going there. Are they supposed to be anti-heroes? Because that was Stan Lee's thing. Says primary colors are heroes, secondary colors are villains. That's why the Hulk is green and purple, because he's an anti-hero, not a superhero.
Well,
he's the wrong colors.
Remember, one of the confusions is they only understand MANGAI through a Western eye. So the characters that they believe are superheroes in a sense may not actually be as super as they believe they are, yet they've been produced for the American audience. In specific, that's really where I draw from the Power Rangers, because I really was always blown away by Super Sentai and Power Rangers being like an interchangeable. The American producers get it. They shoot some cheap footage at Angel Grove, and all of a sudden they've got a TV show. We don't know anything about the real Power Rangers from Japan, but we have these guys that, they fight. Yellow Ranger loses her female body and she fights, and everything is just mixed together. So their vision of their version of Power Rangers, if you will, is quite different than the one that's in Japan. And there will come a reckoning, because the evil forces that they're battling are becoming aware that, hey, we've seen these guys. They're from over there. And these guys are supposed to be like not who these guys are now. Like there's a conflict. And
okay, so we're talking about the plot as if everybody's in on what it's supposed to be about now, and I'm not, and I'm lost. I'm like, okay, so
this has been a problem sharing it.
So we're looking at a team of people who are trying to reproduce something that existed in Japan in America, but for real, and it's actually working.
Yes, them, so we should make it a little more basic. It starts off with basically 4 teens who end up in a castle, right?
Okay.
They end up in the middle of a demonic battle where
do they have a
fallen
dog?
Angel is. Yes, they do, but the dog is not with them. The dog is at home. Yes, all the tropes you'll see every single trope that I could think of applied in there if you're aware of them. They're not blatant, like the dog doesn't walk around going, "I want a Scooby Snack." But so they go into the castle. They end up in this demonic war. The fallen angel that's rebelling against the pack of fallen angels ends up protecting them, and in turn ends up giving them a device that allows them to kind of expand their mind and create themselves in a form that they can like use powers. The idea is it would be like the ultimate spirit form of the person. Well, the technology responds best with Kyle, who is the actual MANGAI, and the YOSHOKAN are the forces from the cartoon that he's projected onto his friends. But when they transform, just like what you see in any of the instant Shazam type transformations, there's something else happening there that's hinted in the story. But for the sake of this series, this little 4-issue miniseries, they actually become the MANGAI YOSHOKAN to fight off the forces that are trying to kill them in that moment. The end of this series will have them defeat the forces that are coming at them and set up what could potentially continue on for another 4 issues should there be enough interest. So it's a self-contained
he was given
story.
The power. So he was given the power to become anything, and he picked the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I mean, his favorite cartoon adventure he became them for real. That would
Right.
be like me becoming Johnny Quest or something.
Yep. Or me, I would have picked Spider-Man, even though Superman might be an obvious choice if you're going superheroes. Thank God I would not have picked Batman. Boy, that would be a ripoff. You'd just be rich, you know.
I can just see the Japanese production company trying to hunt them down to sue them for trademark infringement.
There is a Japanese company in the storyline. I don't know how it's going to be presented because it's not in issues 1 through 4. But through the use of someone who actually speaks Japanese, I've kind of got this whole side plot of an island with a city that makes these anime over there, and there's legal reasons why we don't actually see it here in our world, even though it exists. The idea being, if it got popular, I would just hire like a animation studio to make a 10-minute cartoon that I could release, you know. But there's a lot more to it.
There's so much more to it than I feel like what you're hearing.
Well, I just wonder if you ran your title past your friend that knows Japanese just to make sure you didn't say something offensive.
Actually, if you go back and look at it, right, the initial MANGAI was spelled incorrectly. It was man with G-I-A.
I said, is it Mangia, like in Italian? Mangia, like Mangia?
Yeah, manja.
So when that was caught, fortunately I hadn't done anything but, you know, small promos on my channel and stuff, and I just quietly switched the logo and fixed it all up, and oops, you know, let's hope nobody saw that, but now I just told everybody. So
just a logo at that point, no big deal.
You're right.
It's not like you printed.
Yeah, thank goodness that I've done terrible things in print before. That would have been a bad one though.
I mean, you know, there are translations of brands that, you know, people come up with them and they're like, oh yeah, this is because we're going to make it look like this country. And then it's like a backfire. The Chevy Nova, you know, was laughed out of Mexico because Nova means no, it doesn't go.
No go. Yeah.
And Coca-Cola tried to, you know, come up with Chinese cuneiforms that looked like the letters of Coca-Cola. So it's like, hey, it says Coca-Cola, but it says it with Chinese characters. And it's spelled out "bite the wax tadpole."
Really?
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes. You can Google that one. Bite the wax tadpole.
Brutal.
Coca-Cola. Yes.
That is brutal. So it's not unusual for businesses to mess up in their campaigns.
All the time.
It's very important to really check.
Like Diana said, that doesn't really touch on everything. There are a multitude of subplots and things happening. There's the introduction of the dodo balls, which are cute little creatures. You can see like right there in that artwork there's a little thing reaching up. I think there's a better picture of them there down below, but they play like the role of the cute little sub character. And if you think about it, he's simply like Zark 7, but cuter and easier to manufacture if you're an independent creator. Because literally I designed him thinking cute and make it easy. I don't actually see a picture of him, but he's on the cover of the comic book edition. So when we get there, you can always peek there. There might be a picture of him here. I'm not sure.
No, this is the Ash.
Oh, he's on this shirt. He's there on the shirt. Yeah.
Punch Puppy.
Look at that.
Yeah. Well, the Punch Puppy is the name the homeless guys gave it because if you tick it off, it starts hitting you rapidly, but the hits are really wussy. Like they don't really hurt. They're more of an annoyance. So they've you know, when the homeless people run into them, because there's homeless people that also inhabit the castle from time to time, they just don't mess with them, or else, you know, they got to mess with this thing that's like slap. But they would be easy to manufacture, which was the point.
Yes. Oh yeah, they'd be. You could just go buy puff balls and some bendy sticks, and there you go. What's this? What is this thing here on the side?
This is the MANGAI symbol, and we actually have them in pin form.
Pins made up. They're very cute. Kids love them. We wear them,
and they're actually quite funny because I've had several people ask me what's with the cat pin, but the visualized ears are the M, and then below is a loose G, And the idea was to get them a logo that was easily recognizable, that I could put on the book, put on their uniforms, put on associated anything, and it will eventually be recognized as MANGAI. It's sort of influenced by the Punisher skull in a sense, because I was thinking of something black and white and very simple. And yeah, so this is actually from the anime cartoon that doesn't exist, that does exist. So
RJ's going to be after this one, Mike.
This has got the same meta-textual feel to it that that Inkheart had. If you read those books, if you saw the movie, it doesn't count. Because Inkheart was a book about a book called Inkheart. And they got read into the book, and they had to find a way to read their way out of the book back into the real world, which was the novel called Inkheart that I was reading. So yeah, I get it. Yeah, it's the thing that doesn't exist that does exist.
Right.
Yes.
So is MANGAI the team or the team leader?
MANGAI is the team leader. He's the guy with the horns. Then you have Sister Sentai, who's obviously the lady in pink. You have Shogun Garrison, who is in green and purple, but he actually transforms throughout battles. He has 4 flags on his back, which were directly taken from Chinese fables that I caught wind of, and he uses those to change environments and situations in battles. As he throws them, they can magically like change stuff. And then there's the Cyber Skullbot, and he is not a Yoshokan. If anybody pays attention to like the main image that you put in the background here, it's somewhere in this thing too. All of them have MANGAI or have Yoshokan symbols, except right there, except for the Skullbot, who's on the far left there. So there's something unique about his character, and that is part of the storyline as well. But we should not probably reveal it at this point. It might be a little too early to talk about that.
People to take a
I need a
chance.
belt buckle. I need a Yoshokan belt buckle now.
Yeah. That's actually something that I would like to do. But at this point, with it being so small so far, I would only be making it for myself. It's almost like, for instance, the hardcover book is mostly because I want to get a hardcover book. I want to order one. I want to have one. Now I can do that on my own. But if I'm, well, we've got a resource for it, but it is probably someone you use. But I'm like, okay, I got to get one and actually have it. You know what I mean? Like, just So I am offering that in this campaign. I welcome anybody to get it too. It's just it's my first attempt at a hardcover, so you never know quite how the layout's going to work, and I'm expecting great things. But I'm being honest with people. It's going to be a collector's item because it's going to be the first one. You've seen what?
Yeah. I've seen them do hardcover graphic novels, and I've had to see them do them like 5 times because they just didn't quite ever get the color saturations levels at the right place. And because they use multiple printers, sometimes the printers were at different settings for the same order. So 3 of them came from one printer and 3 from another, and they're like, these are different. Just slightly.
Hey, Doc. I've seen that too myself. And it's funny because the more I do work with them, the more I've learned to like keep my colors in a certain gamut. Like you always do that anyways, but now like I know, okay, if I'm going to color it this way, it's going to look murky, and maybe I want murky, but probably not. So
I've learned what the settings have to be on your order to get it right. So that was basically the conversation was with them, and said, look, what do I got to tell you guys to make sure that it's exactly the way I said it in the PDF? Like this, and this. I'm like, perfect. Thank you.
Right.
And it comes out fine now. Mike, we did know that 7 Zark 7 was added in for the American audience for reasons almost exactly opposite of why they took all the shower scenes out of Princess. But
well, I have to tell you about so the primary character from the Dodo Balls is Pinwoo, and he's going to function a lot like remember Buck Rogers and the little Tweaky and Doctor?
Did it.
Right. So Pinwoo is a little bit like Tweaky with a personality. But there's another character that I've never talked about live, and that is Vexter. On one of the covers here, which is actually a mock cover, won't be the actual cover, you'll see a gremlin transforming into a robot. That is Vexter. And by the end of the battle, he's in the cover. Where is he?
We have the covers all on here because I didn't see covers.
Well, we do it if we do inside the actual perks. I think they're called, or the tiers.
In the tiers, RJ, you'll see them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I never look at those pictures because they're postage stamps to me.
Yeah.
They really are too. Maybe I need to remedy that. But he's a gremlin that can transform into a primitive robot. Victor Violence appears in this book, and that's who Vexter belongs to. He picked it up in a black market spy auction. And so it's a 1970s gremlin that has significant spy features from the 70s and 80s. And he plays a role, but ultimately, what's that?
That's a lot more functional than the 1970s gremlin I had in college.
It's pretty snazzy, actually.
Well, ultimately, he gets his butt whipped to the point where his vehicle portion is destroyed. But they're going to be able to save his computer portion, and that is going to be a tag along with Pinwoo, thus allowing some dialogue with the creature and the computer program. And I've always liked those computer assistant program types. I thought Vision was great when he was Tony Stark's IA in the helmet, and I've always liked the little computer assistant with the dry, stale humor and stuff.
Like Clippy.
Yeah, Clippy.
You had to stop and think about Clippy now, didn't you? That's been a long time since we had Clippy.
Yeah.
So what you're looking at there,
type deer, and he'd go tap tap tap. Looks like you're trying to write a letter. You want me to help?
Yes. Well, and for some reason they thought he was going to be a hit, and he kind of became a cult hit. But yeah, I never did like him too much, but I always had crappy computers. So Clippy would come along and it would be like, everything would start freaking out. And I'd be like, darn, I should have shut that off.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't like you could Google how to shut it off. It was Yahoo back then. And I don't remember how long it took me to figure out how to shut them off. But I was a Mac guy too. Yeah. Oh, Ask Jeeves was awesome. I thought that was the bomb. You could actually talk to someone on the internet. It wasn't anyone, but
ask it a question. Answer came up.
Yeah,
I asked it why
so cool.
one time. It came back and said, "Why not?" It's like I dig it.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
So do you see the H Shack Comics logo right there?
Yeah, I do. In fact, I used it on the
thing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, one unique thing is each issue is not actually numbered. It's symbolized. So the issue that we would call 1 is heart. And then the other issues will have designations that are listed according to the combination that's used to get into the secret inner workings of the castle.
Like the safe room, right? Secret safe room, or right.
Well, it's like a safe room, but it's really where the cult used to work in this castle. So they're going there to see if it's haunted, but really it's not so much haunted as it is a hotbed for Satanism and all sorts of weird stuff that they weren't aware of. Right, which is why the demons are there fighting.
Right.
But it is connected to one of the teams.
To take on.
What's that, RJ?
Well, just
it's
the thing
just
for
the
a group
thing.
of team detectives to take on.
Right, exactly.
Except there is a twist there. So I guess I'll tell you about that. The three teens there.
I do.
They're friends. They're going on a quest to find these ghosts. The fourth teen is actually a bully named Chet Memes, who was chasing them down at school on the last day, and is actually related to the owners of the castle that nobody's really aware of. The castle is run down, and it's kept barely by a trust fund. It's barely kept up by taxes and some minor maintenance, but he has access to it. So the bully, the fourth member of MANGAI YOSHOKAN, is there, but he's not part of the buddy system when this all starts. And if you're thinking for a reference on that, think Green Ranger, perhaps, where it's almost like an anti-hero enemy, but more like an arch rival than an enemy.
Okay.
And
so
yeah,
he's going to be the guy in the he's going to be the guy without the belt buckle.
Well, maybe.
I mean, you just made it obvious, really. They're three teams.
Well, remember, I'm not a fan of Star Wars, but I did like Rian Johnson's occasional subverting expectations occasionally. So I will say, don't necessarily expect the Yoshokan to be based on friendship. It could be based on actual battle prowess and worthiness in battle. So Vinny, the best friend of Kyle, one of the good kids, the blue-haired kid, he has some weird personality quirks that are going to come out throughout the story. And I don't mean anything weird, like he's not going to be any part of the political, gender bender thing. But no, it's nothing like that. But he is definitely not your typical foolhardy, brave-hearted youth.
Yes, he's a goofy kind of kid.
Well, if you're familiar with Lost in Space, which I think you might be, the old TV show, not the thing Netflix put out, the original.
Oh, the pain.
Yes, you already know where I'm going, I think. Yes, you do. That's exactly the character type I'm thinking. Dr. Smith from Lost in Space is very much that character with all his implications. So you remember Dr. Smith was a great friend until opportunity sort of snuck around and he'd say, well, perhaps I can sell the family off and just become an emperor of this planet because that alien said I'd be good to go.
Yeah, exactly.
And he tried to sell the team out. Yeah,
that was Jonathan Harris, and he was an acting coach as well. He was the acting coach for Chuck Norris, and if you ever see Chuck Norris's first movie, it was awful. And he started taking lessons with Jonathan Harris. And finally, Jonathan Harris said, "My boy, I see your problem. You talk too much." And he's like, you're a fighter. You're an action fighter. You're the strong, silent type. And you'll notice that all the Chuck Norris movies from there, he didn't say a whole lot, and he kicked butt, and he started rising up the charts as an action star. I just thought that was a neat little tie-in that Dr. Smith and Walker, Texas Ranger, had that connection.
Well, and Dr. Smith in particular was such a great character because I always wanted to like the guy, just like Dad there in the series did. They always gave him the benefit of the doubt, and every darn time something would come up, he'd be selling him out, trying to.
He would betray him
never
right
turn on him
until the very end. He's like, "Oh, I suppose I've got to save you if I want to save me."
Yep. Classic.
Self-preservation. Loved all of it. We on the George Peter Gatz's channel just last Saturday night. You might be able to still see it there. I don't know if that one got deleted and moved to BitChute or not, but he does the movies every Friday night and Saturday night that are things. Well, last Friday and Saturday it was a montage of pilots that never got series, and one of the ones we did Saturday night was a double length animated pilot for Lost in Space. And the only person that was the same person was Zachary Smith. It was like another Robinson was the captain, and his little brother was the kid, and nobody else was related. Robot was there, and it didn't sound like Robot. But
was that the one where he didn't look like Robot either? He had the other look.
He was smaller, and he had the sort of he still kind of looked like a Robot.
Did he still have the glass head with the dome? Because
I
remember there was one
looked like a Well, there's the one where it's like the long, tall dome.
Yes,
and that was Forbidden Planet.
Okay.
Lost in Space Robot had the big frisbee, the glass.
Yeah,
frisbee
the cool one. Yeah, with the Night. Well, I'm going to call it Knight Rider, but Knight Rider stole it from him. But the original talking light up,
yes,
danger, yes. Will Robinson.
Good stuff.
I love that robot. I really wanted one just like him. I would have been great friends with him.
You're so funny.
Gotta be a working.
He had like vacuum cleaner hose arms with cool hooks that weren't really sharp, but they were. Yeah, he was great.
And they lifted apparently. I don't know who was in that suit, but they made it work. Let's look at the tiers on this campaign. So what are people getting here? You've got your featured tier is MANGAI YOSHOKAN comics, $35,
Yes.
and that is the pack.
Right.
Yep, that's all 4 issues. And they're so it's 24, and then I forget how many, but it goes to 120 on the 4th issue. So the 4th issue is like your king size final edition, finalize the story. There may be a secondary story in there, depending on how close I get to 120 with the finalization of the big story. I want to put something else in there. It would be like a black and white manga thing. But if it is, it's going to be less than like 10 pages because it's going to be real close to 120.
So this is like the first 3 issues of Firefly, and the last issue is Serenity the movie.
Yes.
Something like that, yeah. But the intent is to finish up the story so nobody can, feel like they've been left hanging, but leave enough on the bone so that we can go right back into it. Should it fund properly and should people like it, right? I have plans for a Halloween book already, but that doesn't mean that this can't fall right in line with my schedule with Cyclopean.
So anyways,
yes,
I'm going to butt in because he's rambling.
Yes, good. Go ahead, butt in.
The first, as you can see, this is the comic book edition. You get all 4 books, $35. Then, which I think is a great deal, honestly.
Well, yeah, I mean, with one of them being 120, that's already what people would charge $35 for.
It's definitely be 120. What I think what Chris was saying is like, knowing Chris, we have another 50 days for the campaign, so he's still tweaking and working and finishing up, and he may come up with a little something to throw in that's not listed in the comic book edition. And then we go to the next tier down, which I think is the PDF tier.
There it is.
Yes, the digital. So this is it's all 4 issues in one PDF. Okay, so you're not going to get 4 different PDFs, and that's $10. So it's a very budget friendly kind of thing, and you still get to see this amazing comic and read all the fun things that Chris has put in. For a lot of people, that's like the best way to go.
Sure.
And then we have this lovely little tier, which it's one of my favorites. It's called Prize Books for Kids. So let me just say, Chris loves to give away his books. So when we are at a convention and Diana has to go to the bathroom or Diana needs to stretch her legs, and I come back thinking, okay, honey, you're on, sell a book. And he's beaming. He's so happy. He's like, guess what I did? What did you do? You sold a book. Well, it was this family of 5 kids and they didn't have enough money and blah, blah, blah. And he goes on. So I could just see him now. So a family of 4 kids. So there's 4 books, so they each get one, and the parents have the whole issue. And I signed them. And then I gave him, like, he gives away things, right? So in order to help Chris feel like he can give things away and to help families, because I think everybody is in some kind of a financial crunch. Things have gone. Put your hand down. I'm still talking. You can talk in a minute. I think that by offering this, especially for families and friends of ours that don't read comics, but they want to support us. They want to say, hey, you know what? We don't read comics. It's no offense. We just don't read comics. But here, we are going to buy this tier, and you can go ahead, and it kind of like fits Chris being able to give away. We can bless a kid because a lot of families can't afford it, and it makes everybody happy. So with this tier, basically you are purchasing books for us to give at our upcoming Comic-Con shows. Now, what we like to do is we like to ask the person who's buying these books if we can use their if we can use their first name. And when we use our wheel, I don't know if you know, but we have a kind of like a spinning wheel that we put all the books in. People could. All right, Chris, what
I'm doing the wheel. See, it's the wheel.
You were spinning the wheel.
So spin the wheel. This attracts, when we're at a Comic-Con, it attracts people coming to our table. We like to give away things. It's a great way to sell a book, right? So they spin the wheel. They win the book prize. They win the prize of the books. And we say to the family, hey, can we put your child who won their first name, and can we send it to the person who has bought these books? And we actually write the person's name inside the book, or we'll tell them, hey, this book was bought by Christopher. So here you go. Chris bought you this book. And so it's just kind of a nice thing to help us be able to give children and families that that go to the Comic Cons that really can't afford the books. And we want people to read the books, because honestly, if you don't read the stories, if we don't get into readers' hands, and how are people going to know if they like it or not? So that's that tier. It's one of my favorite tiers.
Well,
anyway,
I just wanted to say, like she covered all of it, but it's just a fun way to try to add to whatever I'm going to be giving to the kids. Like, I take everything, comic book collections, my own backlog that doesn't sell. Anything I can give away, I like to put on that wheel and spin it.
It goes on the win a prize wheel, and we have so many people. There was one Comic-Con that we had a line of families wanting to spin the wheel. We were getting dirty looks from other independent artists. They're like, what the hell are they doing? And we're giving stickers away. We're giving small.
How are they getting so many people over there? Well, I'm giving away stuff. Yeah.
We don't have a lot of big prizes on the wheel, but you know what? I mean, our future audience is the children, right? We're all getting older. So in order to get the children to, come to our table and get the families to come to our table, it's one of the things that I sort of came up with that's very unusual for, I guess, comic book people to do. But at any rate, it's
not that unusual, but the way that she did it and the way that we put prizes on it. Like, we don't put like, oh, here's a sticker, buddy. No, like we were, we got metal cards that didn't sell. The metal cards go on there. We got pins that didn't sell. The pins go on there. Yeah.
Well,
good stuff.
Lucifer Storm does this with his comics, and he says that the first comic book comment where he tried this, he just had the first issue of his series. And he was like, free comic.
Yeah.
And that was the first time he not only paid for his table but made a profit, because people would go away with the free comic, read it, and come back. So, you got any more of these?
And come back. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And so that is why we put the tier. It was really, we do have family and friends that don't read comics, but they wanted to support us, and they're like, here, just take some money. I'm like, well, no, we're not going to just take your money. You need to do something. So we kind of came up with that.
Yeah,
and then the other tier is the hardcover edition, which is, I think, a very personal sort of thing for Chris. He really wanted to do a hardcover edition this time around. So, Chris, why don't you talk about that?
Well, the way I'm planning on doing it is 8.5, 11, with the margins containing thumbnail notes about different aspects of the page. A lot of these pages, I want to show maybe in quarter page how many times I've redrawn some of these pages, because the evolution of MANGAI has been really cool. And it paid off. Like the other night we were talking to the guy who did Jupiter, Jason, can't remember his last name, but he was talking about how, and he was talking about how drawn in he was by one of the page's layouts. And I laughed to myself, because that page was redrawn like 15 times. To get to that was like a journey. And like, I kept drawing it and going, that's good. And then I'd sleep on it. I'd come back the next day and be like, oh no, if I did this, it would be even better. And it just kept going until finally I was like, all right, if you mess with it anymore, it won't even be what you want. It'll be a whole new page, like a whole new concept. So I left it, and I'm really happy with it. But it was good that he pointed it out to me, because I was like, that is what I wanted. That makes it pay off. Instead of having
this is like a director's cut artist edition.
In many ways, yeah. I've never sat on anything like this before, RJ. Like, I usually draw it out, and it's usually on press within a month.
Right.
This has been like sitting.
You started this in August, right? September.
Yeah. And it just
the longest project.
It's just been going slowly,
and
making it work.
I think some of the art is the best that he's done thus far, because he keeps going back and tweaking things and relooking at it and taking his time with it. So I'm excited. So then we have, let's finish up the tiers here. The collector's pack. So the collector's pack is just about almost
It's two
everything.
of all the comics.
It's
No, the collector's
this
pack.
was the-
One to
this
read, one to back.
former Lorenzo. We did a Lorenzo pack at one point in time in one of our, I think it was Great Cycle. I don't even remember the book, but so you get all 4 of the issues, of course, times 2. So I guess, and see, I don't understand this because I'm not a collector of anything. People, collect books. They don't want to thumb through them and mess with them. They want to keep them in their pristine condition. I'm like, all right. So that's for that person. And I know Lorenzo at one point really liked buying 2 of everything. I don't know if it was because it was a collector's pack thing or if he gave it to a friend. I don't know why, but at one point we did that. So that is the collector's part.
I have books that I have not slabbed, but professionally framed behind museum glass. So there's no getting them out of there without slicing the back of the frame open.
Right.
And because they've been like professionally framed.
Right.
I've got one that's at Hobby Lobby right now being framed. It's going to take a couple of weeks because I'm like, it's a 1907 Katzenjammer Kids.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Save this thing.
Yep. And I understand that. I mean, I do. I understand that. I'm just, so that's why that tier is there. So the next, the actual last tier is the Everything Edition. So
it's got everything.
You got everything, all 4 issues, the hardcover edition, plus all the add-ons. The add-ons obviously are the t-shirts, the pin. I would really, really love to get to a point where we could actually make some of our Punch Puppies, some of our little cute guys, but it probably won't happen unless we reach the 1,000 and we go over. Then we can add that as a stretch goal. That's kind of our goal. Our hope is that if we did, get to our goal, we could add a stretch goal for whatever. I don't even know.
If we had gone for 1.3 million plus $1.
There you go. That would have done it. Because I know a lot of people who've made plushies, and I think that's a fairly simple design, so they wouldn't.
Totally doable for us. Totally doable, But we got to get there, and we really stepped out in faith. For every book that we have done in the past has been a flex goal, and as you see, this is not a flex goal. So we are sitting here going, I hope we
it's a fixed goal.
Shoot ourselves in the foot with this.
No. Because even if it did not fund, that isn't the end of MANGAI. It would just mean remarketing of it. But I think we will fund. It's just we got to get out there. We got to get the word out. Yeah. My goal is really to master the pitch a little better so that I can go out into new circles and try to pitch it. Because we speak to a very limited audience. I'd like to, I don't even know how, but like maybe it's going on shows about plumbing and talking about the cool pipes that MANGAI can fix. I don't know, I got to find a way we got to find a way to grow the audience. I think that's true for everybody.
A teenager is granted the power to become whatever he wants. He chooses his favorite action cartoon character.
Exactly.
That's your
exactly
pitch.
It. That is the pitch. Chris, I think, gets a little too deep and involved where if you're not reading the story in the moment, it sounds very confusing, but it's not.
That's the problem because
it's a fun tale.
It's written in so many layers that I enjoy so much that really stuff I should leave there for the reader to find. Exactly. I want to go, well, look, over here we have this, and then over here there's this, and then this is happening over here. And oh my gosh, when you read this part, I should let that stuff simmer and
and folks, he's not kidding. I've read his books. Cluster Fudge is another one of those layered books where you're like, wait, this got real meta all of a sudden here. Wait, am I supposed to be like, horrified at this, or am I supposed to be laughing? I'm not quite sure.
Right.
Because it switches gears so much. So if he says that this one's going to have those same layers, he's proven his chops with other stuff.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is,
so everything too.
This is going to be decidedly PG. And I don't mean PG-13. I mean PG. So it's an adventure to make it sustainable and entertaining for adults and for PG. Because if you go too serious and stiff for the adults, the kids get bored, and if you go too crazy, the adults go, what? And it's an adventure. Like, by the time we're done, it should feel like a walk through just an incredible epic story. Where we fall in between there and the worst possible outcome, I don't know, but I've read the thing. I think it's gonna rock. It's just
I've read the thing. The writer says, by the way, I've read my own book.
I've read it, yeah. So yeah, trust me.
I get it. I mean, I've got things that I've published that I like to reread. There are things I've written. I like to read my own stuff sometimes. There are things I've written I don't want to look at again. But my Destroyer Batman story that got me that gig, I read that thing at cons all the time because I just love it. It's like, oh, I did that. That's fucking awesome right there. So I get it. You know when you're on. When you get anticipation for your own idea that you wrote down. That's when you're in the groove. Guys, past the top of the hour here. I want to just thank you.
I'm watching that too, bro. Yeah.
You should don't make it so long next time.
All right. Well, look,
come back same campaign.
What are we at? Like in 3 weeks, we'll be trying to renew the interest, like at the 30-day mark. So we'll have to holler at you sometime in that next 30-day process
that they all get into.
I know.
We never had a big surge in the beginning, so I'm like, we can kind of announce a launch, and it's been going on for 30 days. Yeah.
After 20 days, no one's going to know. They're going to look and say, "Oh, 30 days must be today." Look, they've already got
there you go. Yeah.
Just
funded in 59 days. All right. I'm going to stop talking because I'll go for another hour.
I'm going to go put a sock in his mouth next time.
Oh,
just kidding.
No, that's fine. It's just that I've got somewhere I've got to be. And
me too.
Normally
we have another show at 10, by the way. We have another show.
Everybody jump over to the mic stand. Catch Mike. He's already started with the mic stand. All the niche news of manga, anime, comic books, and professional wrestling.
New format too.
New format. Yes, he's got music and the background and stuff.
Well, and he told me it's only an hour, so don't delay. Go over there and don't miss it.
Absolutely. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for being here tonight. We don't have a show without you. We're just a podcast falling in the woods otherwise without your audience. So we're glad you're here. And as always, we just hope you had a blast. Good night.